written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me on the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome. Welcome to our board of meeting today. I'm Dale Lair, President of the 2022 Board of Directors. This regular meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Board of Directors is audio and video recorded by RCSC management and staff. Please be advised there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. Please take out your phones and electronic devices to ensure that they are on silent mode. Thank you. First order of business, roll call vote by Secretary Lanevsky.
Okay. Director Collins.
Present.
Director Fimmel.
Good morning.
Director McAdam.
Good morning.
Treasurer Akins.
Good morning.
Vice President Agi.
Good morning.
I'm here. I'm Secretary Lanevsky. Director Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Wilson.
Here.
President Lair.
Here. I would like to now introduce our timekeeper, parliamentarian, and management personnel. Our timekeeper is Director Collins. Parliamentarian is Ray Chornecki.
Did I say it right? Yes, you did.
Woohoo. And our management team, Bill Cook, General Manager.
Oh.
Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance. Mike Woodprude, Director of Buildings and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds. Jolynn Higgins, Communication and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Marcia Johnson, our Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
Teresa Serino, Director of Events and Entertainment and also in the booth upstairs. And Randy Bird, our IT Manager. I would also like to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Mike Crawford, audiovisual engineers. Thank you. At this time, I'd also like to welcome all RCSC members who are attending our meeting for the first time. Is there any first timers? Oh, please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. The minutes of the January 27th, 2022 meeting were posted for the director's review. Are there any corrections or additions at this time? There being no corrections or additions to the minutes of the January 27th, 2022 meeting, the minutes are approved. Thank you. Committee recommendations from the Technology Committee, Director Fimmel.
Thank you, Madam President. On behalf of the Technology Committee, I move for the approval of $500,000 for Phase 1 of the RCSC Technology Improvement Plan, as outlined in the planning session of January 27th.
Thank you. Director Fimmel, as maker of this motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
Thank you very much. The new IT manager, Randy Bird, has done an excellent job in identifying changes and improvements that need to be made in the RCSC technology system. In this Phase 1 of the Technology Improvement Plan, this will add 2 additional IT specialists to the RCSC staff and provide for funding of much-needed technology equipment. This Phase 1 of the TIP was fully laid out in the January 27th planning session, And that planning session can be seen on YouTube if you have any additional questions. I support this motion and ask that you vote in its favor.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Director McAdam.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that it's clear where this money is coming from. Is that something that's clearly established as we make this motion?
Who are you directing your question to? Randy Byrd?
I don't believe
Bill Cook?
that would be perhaps Director Cook or General Manager Cook.
Madam President, Director McAdam, it will be the $500,000 will come from our carry forward. So it is unbudgeted at this point, and that's why we're going through this process. Going forward, it would come directly out of operations, which that's where the carry forward is derived from.
Continue.
So thank you. I'm just concerned. This represents a pretty substantial portion of the carry forward from the past year that was not identifiable at an earlier time, and I'm just questioning what impact you foresee this having on other budgetary items that might have been addressed by a carry forward that will not be addressed because of the diversion of this money. Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that I'm not in favor of doing this. I just want to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible.
Yes, understand. Director McAdam. So the $500,000 represents less than 10%. I couldn't tell you the exact amount as a percentage of our total carry forward. So the carry forward represents multiple years of excess that has been generated.
So you're suggesting that we have how many millions in carry forward?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know if we have $11 million in carry forward.
Which is the accumulated carry forward of multiple years.
That is correct.
That is not otherwise designated for anything. This is not capital reserves. It's not anything else.
It is not. It is operational, and it really represents an amount that's available in the event of an operational issue. We have $100 million in assets, and we have a reserve that's required, typically required for that, and we utilize that as part of the reserve to represent any type of replacement of those assets. And it could also be utilized for, things such as the safety and security initiative as well. So it's for unbudgeted items that come up, such as this. So without that, we would be in a bind in terms of being able to, utilize funds. We would have to go into our capital reserve to come up with the funding for this initiative. So,
Madam President, one final question. Sure. So thank you very much. I appreciate that information. I think that may be new to many of us. It is to me, certainly. My question would be then, is there a place in our financial reporting where that figure is the sum total of the carry forward is actually evident?
Yes, Director McAdam, if you look at our balance sheet, the cash on hand is typically the carry forward plus any operational funding for that given year. So it's a line item on our balance sheet.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, it has been moved on behalf of the Technology Committee to request the approval of $500,000 for Phase 1 of the RCSC Technology Improvement Plan, TIP, as outlined at the planning session on January 27th, 2022. Secretary Lanevsky, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes. Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Fimmel?
Yes.
Director McAdam?
Yes.
Treasurer Akins?
Yes.
Vice President Agee?
Yes.
Director Nukowski?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
And I vote yes. President Lair?
Yep.
The votes are 9 yes, 0 no.
Okay, with 9 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion passes its first reading.
Madam President.
Secretary or Director Fimmel.
Thank you. Due to the urgency of this matter, I ask that any further readings of this motion be waived so that we can immediately proceed to implement the TIP.
Is that a motion?
Is there a second? Second. Second by Secretary Wilson. Everybody's a secretary, I'm sorry. Director Wilson. Okay, any discussion? Hearing none. Secretary Lanevsky, please take the roll call vote.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
And I vote yes. President Lair.
With 8 in favor and none opposed, the motion passes. Thank you. Unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is a motion on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee. Secretary Lanevsky.
Thank you. On behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee, I move that the analysis of capacity utilization, and trend analysis be performed annually by RCSC management and distributed to the Board of Directors and the Long Range Planning Committee for use in executive planning with board set parameters, budgeting, and forecasting.
Thank you. It is moved on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee that the analysis of capacity utilization, and trend analysis be performed annually by RCSC management and distributed to the Board of Directors and the Long Range Planning Committee for use in executive planning with board set parameters, budgeting, and forecasting. Ms. Johnson, would you please read the names of the members who signed up to speak on this motion only?
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Well, very nice. I'm sorry.
You signed up to speak on the ad hoc and the voting and the technology long-range planning, which committee recommendations don't get members to speak on. There was nothing else.
Okay, thank you. The motion before you on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee is the analysis of capacity utilization, and trend analysis to be performed annually by RCSC management and distributed to the Board of Directors and the Long Range Planning Committee for use in executive planning with board set parameters for budgeting and forecasting. Secretary Lanevsky, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of adoption?
Madam President, this was thoroughly discussed at the last meeting, so at this point I don't wish to speak. If it becomes necessary, I will at a later time.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, was there a second? I missed
Just
it.
a minute. Everybody who wants to speak, raise your hand. Just the two of you? Okay. Director McAdam? Director McAdam?
Before Director? No. Okay, so I still have some questions about the way this is worded. And so as I understand this, Dale, I need to address this to you as the president of the board. I'm still a little bit unclear, by the fact that there's a reference to the analysis of capacity utilization, and trend analysis, as though there is a particular tool that is being put forward here. And I did speak to that at the last meeting. I don't believe that the tool that is currently in use is adequate for the purposes that we've put forward, and I'm concerned about it being the implication being that it's this particular analysis that needs to be approved. And the other question that I would have simply, and perhaps Director Lanevsky would like to speak to this, is what is meant by with board set parameters? I don't understand what those are. Are they the ones in the current study? Are they other board set parameters? How are we to understand that?
Director McAdam, I think your first concern has been asked and answered already at the previous meeting. As far as, can I go ahead and do board set parameters? Basically, when you have the raw data, what are the actionable parameters? At what point does the board take action on, moving forward, retracting, those sorts of things? That hasn't been decided. So is 30% the point, or is it 60%? Those are board set parameters. When do we start retracting services or not reinvesting in something? At what point? Is that 30%, 20%? That's up to the board. There needs to be discussion on that when the report comes out. Director McAdam.
Thank you, Madam President. So I guess my question there is that it sounds as though we're not talking about how the utilization figures are arrived at, but a standardized method for evaluating which activities might be expanded or curtailed based on a generally applicable number. So basically, we're saying that if it's 30% or if it's 40% or if it's 15%, that will be applicable across the board without any exceptions. Is that correct?
You know, I wouldn't want to say that at this point because management is going to do the report. We'll take a look at it at that time and make the decisions, you know, when the report comes back. It's why there was no parameter set at this point. It's a work in progress, okay? Director McAdam.
So I'm understanding you to say that it is possible that at some point it would not be a universally applicable number, but rather dependent on from activity to activity.
That would depend on the board. It's a board decision. Director McAdam.
I move that we make a very friendly adjustment or amendment to this motion and just simply change the word "the" to "an." So I move that an analysis of capacity be performed annually rather than the analysis of capacity.
Can you read the motion? Read it in its entirety.
I move, on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee, I move that an analysis of capacity utilization, and trend analysis be performed annually by RCSC management and distributed to the Board of Directors and the Long Range Planning Committee for use in executive planning with board set parameters, budgeting, and forecasting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Steve Collins. Discussion? No discussion? Secretary Lanevsky, please take the roll call vote. Hold on.
On the amendment.
Lori Ellingson had signed up and wrote 2 different topics on the same line, and I only saw the technology. She did sign up to speak on this.
Well, we're talking about the motion.
The amendment now?
The amendment now.
Okay.
Okay?
But just so you know.
I'll give you a chance if we get through this. Okay. So there's been a motion to amend and in deleting the word "the" and inserting "and," A-N. Secretary Lanevsky, please take the roll call vote on the motion to amend.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Aiken.
Yes.
Vice President Agee.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
So total 8 votes for and no votes against. The amendment has passed. Now, I'm going to go back to, since we're a little out of order here. Lori, if you'd like to come up and speak to the motion as amended.
Lori Ellingson, 133335. I do agree that we need something of this sort. My biggest concern is the wording of how this motion was written and that it's too vague. If we could make it a little more concise with specifics. Basically, we're doing an analysis of capacity, but we're letting the management do that. Who in management is doing it? When will that be done? What tools will they use to do it? I belong to a health club in Denver, Colorado, and our membership card, every time we swiped it, we got a record of every single time we use the facility. We got the date, we got the time, and if we could do something a little more precise besides just that, oh, we checked in. But what time did we check in? If we could improve the technology of our system when we utilize the equipment and the facilities so that we're not spending hours and hours and hours of having somebody look at the monthly. It's like, okay, there were on Saturday, every single pickleball court at Mountain View was full, and there were 20-plus people waiting. The lawn bowling was totally full. The tennis courts were full to 100% capacity. But when somebody from management looks at that, how are they going to realize those facilities were used at 100% capacity on that day from 7 a.m. until 11 a.m.? So we just need more details, and we need a better system. That's the only thing that, if we could work that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the motion before you on behalf of the Long Range Planning Committee is that an analysis of capacity utilization, and trend analysis be performed annually by RCSC management and distributed to the Board of Directors and the Long Range Planning Committee for use in executive planning with board set parameters for budgeting and forecasting. Secretary Lanevsky.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
8 votes in favor, none opposed. The motion passes its second reading. The second item of unfinished business is a motion to amend the bylaws, Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board. Second reading, Vice President Agi.
Madam President, I move to amend bylaws Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meeting of the Board as follows. In paragraph 2, all meetings of the board, adding and board member exchanges, excluding executive sessions, shall be open and video recorded, striking with time allotted for members to make comments. Adding member comments at board meetings will be limited to posted motions. In paragraph 3, strike a minimum of 3, strike the word 3, and add 2 times before finalized and acted upon unless readings are waived. Paragraph 4, adding board member exchanges will generally be held on the last Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. in the Sundial Auditorium, striking in last Thursday. Adding board member exchanges are held, board meetings and board member exchanges may occur earlier in the month in November and December due to holidays. Board meetings, add the word and. Board member exchanges, sorry, this gets a little complex. Schedule will be posted in RCSC facilities, newspaper, Sunviews, and or the RCSC website. Add board member exchanges and board meetings will last for a maximum of 2 hours.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Secretary Lanevsky. It has been moved and seconded to amend the bylaws, Article 5, titled Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board. Ms. Johnson, would you please read the names of the members who signed up to speak on this motion only?
When I read your name, please come up and sit in the chairs reserved in the front row. When called to the podium, please state your name and member number, and most importantly, whether you are speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. I've got Susan Bjork, Jean Taunton, Lori Ellingson, And it looks to be that that's it. If I missed your name, please let me know. Okay, so the first person to speak would be Susan Bjork.
Well, the first would be.
What? Oh.
Hello, Board. I haven't been at the last couple of meetings because, as you know, I work, but I've been paying attention online, and I first want to start out that I know that this is a tough and thankless job.
Your
sometimes.
name and number.
Oh, Susan Bjork, 112650. Sorry, you just said it, so I didn't repeat it. But I have to say that relative to the meetings and the changes that you're going to make, I'm disappointed in the actions of the board that I see so far. I really had high hopes. But everything you're doing is in opposition to what we heard at the annual meeting from these homeowners. Regardless of the fact that it wasn't an official vote, it was clearly evident that these homeowners want to speak. So here's my issues. Number one, well, first I'm going to say I see a spirit of division up there that needs to be broken, and I hope that you guys can work with a spirit of collaboration, courtesy, and respect, rather, because you get further that way. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't watched the meetings that have occurred, I urge you to go back. You might learn something from them. I do that all the time with my meetings because I want to improve. So, and also work collaboratively with others. So I just urge you to do that because I see a lot of eye rolling, a lot of disrespect, and I'm not the only one. I'm just here to say it because I want it to be.
Ma'am, are you in favor of the motion or opposed?
No, I am not in favor, and here's why.
Okay, thank you.
Here's why. Number one, in the Section 5, it does say that members can comment, and you know, when you brought it up, you didn't even talk about this extra meeting. I may not have time, other people may not have time to spend at an additional meeting. A lot of times things come up during the board meetings that we want to comment on, so if we're not signed up, then how are we going to comment? Additionally, you're reducing the number of times to bring it to a vote from 3 to 2, which is also in direct conflict because sometimes people are out of town and they may not see what's going on. So I think that's, you know, you have the option of waiving, which you just did today. So I don't know why you would have to remove, you know, move it down to 2 times. But again, it's just the transparency I see when you brought up the idea of this other meeting, which is, you know, a good idea. It wasn't during when you were going to take it away. So the transparency and again the trust, it just doesn't lend itself. But while I'm speaking on this motion, I'll just tell you that thank you for the new signs. They look good. I haven't gone down to phase 1 to see how those have been spruced up, but those are very nice. But again, I'd just like to see, I don't know, it's hard to watch these meetings. So I just hope that you guys start trying to work better together. There's a lot of good ideas up there, and if you put your heads together, I think a lot can get accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Totten.
Good morning. Jean Totten, 148753, and a proud member of the Sun City Advocate Group. Regarding the member exchanges, I was not here in the past. I've heard people speak about in the past we did this, in the past we did that. I feel that what is written is either too vague or could definitely use more explanation. And I don't know whether you planned on doing that after the motion was passed, but I think it might be a good time to do it before so that we members could see what exactly a board member exchange is. I would like to eliminate the fact that you're saying that the meetings have to have a maximum of 2 hours. I think you're seeing many interested members now, and I don't think you should put a time limit on the amount of time that we would be speaking with you about our concerns. Because you haven't really explained to me what a member exchange is, I can't quite visualize us all sitting in a circle. Somebody throws out a topic, we all speak on. I guess what I'd like is after my 3 minutes are up, maybe you would take the time to explain how you see these meetings running so that we who have never been involved in one before have an idea. And then I also wondered, as we're meeting in this exchange, do these recommendations then go to the board, or do we get feedback? Many times someone will come up here and mention something that's important to them, and then we never hear back on what it is. It's not mentioned in the meeting minutes. There's nowhere for feedback. So maybe the summaries could be more explicit. I don't know. I'm just saying you're starting to see an uptick in the number of members here, which is wonderful. Mm-hmm. And so communication, we'd like you to be more transparent. So if you want to take a minute to explain now, I would be very happy to hear how a board member exchange is going to work.
Please. I'm going to just, it's not carved in stone at this point, but a board member exchange should really be, it's a meeting of the membership that has access to the board of directors and some management personnel. And really, what I'm envisioning is that there isn't going to be a set agenda, that the agenda is set up by the members themselves. They bring the topics that they want to talk to. I'm not going to put a time limit on the amount of time that a person speaks because it's your meeting. But I think at 2 hours we wrap it up. So in the past, there was an agenda. In the past, you got called up, and you could speak to agenda items or ask questions, but you were limited to 3 minutes. I don't think that's what we want. I think what we've heard loud and clear is that members have issues that they want to talk, and they want to talk in length, and that's fine. The members are going to manage their own meeting. If one person is monopolizing the microphone for half an hour, it's up to them to say, hey, okay, let's move on. I'm not going to do it. So does that help a little bit? Okay. Okay. And it should be, think of it more as a town hall meeting with discussion. So one person comes up, they talk about what they want to talk about, and then other people can comment one way or the other. If we can answer your question at the time, we'll answer your question. If it's something that's a suggestion, there's some idea or a problem with some possible suggestions, we're going to put it up on a board, and if it takes time for the board to study it and come back to you, we're going to do that. Does that help?
It does, but I also wonder if is the rest of the board in agreement, or is this just your opinion?
Well, nice question. But yes, it's my vision, and I have asked for input from the board. So once this passes, we'll pound it out a little bit more. Okay?
Madam President. Madam President.
Yes, Director Akins.
My first year on the board, we did have the board member exchange.
It's okay.
First year on the board, we did have the board member exchange, and it was over at Lakeview. However, we're assuming that we probably wouldn't be able to fit everybody in Lakeview this time, so we're going to have it here. It's more informal than a regular board meeting. Because we've now, with a regular board meeting, everything has to be follow, strict rules. It has to be boom, 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 where the board member exchange is more open. And you get a chance to come up, and you get a chance to speak, you get a chance to debate more. And it's just, like I said, like President Lara said, it is more open. And there's, let's see, at least 3 of us that were on the board at the time we had the board member exchange before. And it worked, I thought it worked very well. I was not really in favor of changing that However, circumstances changed, and I'm not sure how it got changed or who voted on that, but I was on the board when it did get changed, and it was okay. I mean, we want to try it. We want to try and see how that works. We want to try this and see how it works. If we find out that you guys are not liking it and it's not working, we can always change it back again. Everything is not set in stone.
Okay, we have to keep moving on now, okay? All right, the next speaker?
Lori Ellingson.
Lori Ellingson, 133335. I also am a proud member of the Sun City Advocates. I am against this as it is written. There are quite a few issues here that I think are good. I just think it needs to be tweaked just a little bit. I understand the reasoning for having the meetings only go 2 hours. Everybody, I'm sure, agrees no meeting should last longer than the one person's weakest bladder. I also feel that I understand why you want to change it from 3 readings to 2, but I don't believe we need 3 readings to decide how many balls should be used when playing miniature golf. I don't think we need 3 readings when deciding the length of a pool noodle. I don't believe we need 3 readings when deciding the PSI pressure on a golf cart tire. I do feel that we need 3 readings when deciding on a project that is geared to last 8 to 10 years with a $40 million budget. That should not be passed in 2 readings. So there's a lot of things that are basically, we need to work smarter, not harder. We need to be more concise. We need to decide what the real important issues are and not take up time on tiny little issues that should be decided by a facility monitor. They should be given the authority to make decisions when tiny little issues like that come up. And the bigger issues, how are we going to spend the money that we have on remodeling a project at Mountain View of such magnitude? Why should that be decided by 9 people when it affects 40,000 residents? So the other thing that is an issue, I think it would be good if we had the member exchange meetings in the evening or middle of the day, mid-afternoon. By having both the board meeting and the member exchange meetings at 9 a.m., it eliminates all the people that work. It eliminates all the people that are utilizing the rec centers. Everyone is playing golf, pickleball, tennis, bike riding, hiking at 9 a.m. If we could change and have a member exchange in the middle of the afternoon or in the evening, that would allow the majority of our members and residents to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam President, everyone who has signed up has spoken.
Thank you. The motion before you is to amend Bylaws Article 5, titled Director of Board of Directors, Section 5, titled Meetings of the Board. Vice President Egge, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of adoption?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Discussion.
Did we get a second on this?
Yes, Secretary Linefsky.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Karen.
Karen McAdam, Director McAdam. I'm trying.
Thank you, Madam President. So while I think that the idea of reinstituting member exchanges is certainly an idea worth pursuing, I am not going to support this amendment because I think it's the wrong approach, and I would like to explain why. We are proposing making a significant change to our bylaws without knowing what we actually are trying to create. And I would suggest that's kind of like putting the cart before the horse. We could do something different. We could say, let's just add a board member exchange on an experimental basis to the next 3 months and see what it looks like. We can do that without changing our bylaws. And then at the end of that, we would be in a much better position to determine what do we actually want to see changed about our bylaws. So the information that was shared today about this is your meeting, there's no agenda, the members will manage their own meeting, that's completely new information to me. I have never heard that before, and I'm very curious about that. For instance, who will manage that meeting? So the statement is made that the members are going to manage it themselves, and I'm like, yes, who's going to do that? Those are issues that I think should be addressed. I would propose that we try to do this on an experimental basis. I realize it means adding a couple of extra meetings, but I think that's a small price to pay. I'm also very concerned about the fact that the only 2 sections of this proposed motion that address the actual interaction between board and membership actually both fall out in a minus category for the membership. So it's restricting what you're able to say at some times and then limiting the amount of time that you have to provide input. And I'm concerned about that. I would like to have an experimental phase where we say, let's look and see what it's like. Will members actually even come to meetings? If they're only able to speak to posted motions, maybe not. And I would like to see that before we go ahead and actually revise the bylaws. So I am very much in favor of saying let's do this on an experimental basis, but let's hold off on changing our bylaws when we don't even know what the end product is that we're trying to create.
Director McAdams, please, people.
Come on, can we get something done?
Please. We cannot have a meeting of the board without a bylaw change.
Madam President, I don't believe that's correct. We can call it a special session, and it has to meet certain requirements. It has to be posted. It has to have a 72-hour posting notice. It has to be video recorded, and we can do that without changing our bylaws.
It's not a board member exchange. It's a special session.
Well, we call it for 3 months. We call it a special session and think of it as an experimental board member exchange.
Okay. Any further discussion? Secretary Lanevsky.
Yeah, very briefly. What I think we're trying to do is we have heard the membership, and we have heard that you want transparency and that you want to be able to have exchanges with us and an exchange of views, and I think that's what this does. My vision for this motion and when it passes is basically that of the president of the organization. That's all I have to say.
Discussion. Director Nowakowski.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. My biggest objection to this is limiting it to 2 hours unless we have a fallback position. If we want to limit the meeting to any meeting to 2 hours length, we have a fallback. Come back the next day, come back that afternoon, some other format that says, okay, if there's more business and or member comments brought out, they have the opportunity to know when they can show up again instead of saying, okay, we're done. So that's my only comment.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
My only problem with this is also 2 hours. We took this position as board members, and to say 2 hours we're going home just doesn't seem like we're fulfilling our obligation to the public.
Madam President.
Director Hickens.
I would like to point out that we talked about the 2-hour limit at the last board meeting, And if you remember, we went 2.5 hours. So it's not that exactly at 2 hours, they're going to cut off all the microphones. That's not the way it's going to work. If we are still in the middle of trying to discuss something or try to get something accomplished or trying to come to a conclusion, we can go past the 2 hours. We're trying to, it's a target time. 2 hours is only a target.
It would be a violation of the bylaw, though.
Madam President.
Is there anybody else? Discussion? Director Collins.
I like what Director Aiken said, so I'm going to make an amendment that we change the end that states it'll only go 2 hours if it is approved. Only 2 hour meeting if there is no more further discussion from the residents.
Director Collins, you're making a motion to amend. What are you striking and what are you adding?
I'm striking 2 hours to state to the members are satisfied with the meeting being finished.
Okay. So you're talking about paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4.
Lost my paper.
Last sentence, you're striking will last for a maximum of 2 hours. Is that what you're striking?
Yes, just strike that.
Strike that.
Madam President, I'm beginning to...
Is there a second to that amendment?
I'll second it.
Second by John. Director Nowakowski, sorry.
Madam
Discussion?
President. Yes. We said it's only a target, so there's no reason having it in there. We will aim for,
People, come on.
we will aim for 2 hours, and that's all well and fine, but if we go over, we go over. It's only a target. It was just stated that.
Madam President, point of clarification.
Director Fimmel.
Is Director Collins wanting to eliminate the 2 hours, or is he wanting to keep the 2 hours, comma, unless there is continued conversation?
It's already been seconded.
I'll just strike it.
Just strike it. Thank you.
Just strike the 2 hours.
Yeah, that's what you said in the beginning.
Just strike the 2 hours.
No, we're striking, so.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to take a vote on the amendment to strike on the last paragraph, paragraph 4. No, there's more.
I'm sorry, Madam President?
Director Akins.
Yes, I did say that the 2 hours is just a target. However, we are trying to not go to 3 or 4 hours for a meeting.
Correct.
So we still need to have, I think, the 2 hours there, even though we have the ability and we have the flexibility to go past the 2 hours if need be.
Okay, any further discussion?
Madam President, just for
Vice President Agee.
Just for clarification, are we talking about striking the last sentence? I mean, just all the reference to time? Okay, thank you.
Okay, no more discussion. So the motion has been amended to strike the last sentence of paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4. Secretary Lanevsky.
Director Collins.
Yes, I vote on the amendment. We're voting on the amendment. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
No.
Okay. Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
No.
Vice President Agee.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lehrer.
No. How many votes do you have? 6-3.
6-2. Depends how you vote.
6-2. Okay, the amendment passes. All right. Now we're going to vote on the vote on the amended motion. Secretary Lanevsky.
Madam President, is there a chance to have a discussion now that we have a new motion?
Yes. Director McAdam.
Thank you. So while I voted in favor of striking this as an amendment to the motion, I still remain opposed to the motion for the same reasons that I mentioned before, and I think this is a very classic example of why we should vote this motion down, because we can see that already there is one portion of many changes that are being proposed that we are not in agreement about. So I remain opposed. Just in case you're wondering, how could you vote in favor of the amendment and against the motion? I want to be clear about that.
Okay. Secretary Lanevsky.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
No.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
I'll go yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Lair.
No. 6-1. Motion in favor passes. Seven, sorry, 7.
That's the second.
Madam President, I'd like to now make an amendment to I move to make an amendment to this motion as follows, to change the days.
It's already been adopted.
You should have done that already. You should have done that right away.
You can do it
I think you can make a motion to amend something that's already adopted. If you want, but I don't.
Just do it at the next meeting? Okay.
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 I'm going to withdraw?
Yeah, withdraw.
Thank you. Okay, the third item of unfinished business.
Madam President,
Oh,
I
I'm sorry.
have a motion.
Motion.
I move to waive the third reading on Vice President Agi's motion regarding, that was just passed, regarding member exchanges.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a second by Director Wilson.
Yes.
No. Can you speak first? No, I know.
Madam President, Board of Directors, thank you. So in looking at the timing of the two meetings, from a management perspective, we had asked that we switch the days in order for us to be able to provide financial information more current. Otherwise, we would be 2 months in arrears, and it would also help with respect to our management reports if we could have the board meetings on Thursday, on the last Thursday. It will help from a reporting perspective as well. So I would ask that we not waive and that at the next meeting we change the dates if we could. Thank you.
Okay. So it just kind of getting everything in order here. We have I'm sorry, Director or Secretary Lanevsky.
Madam President, based on General Manager Cook's desire to work out the details on the meetings, I'll withdraw my motion to waive.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. The third item of unfinished business is the approval of an ad hoc committee to review and revise bylaws. And the third reading, Director Collins.
I move to form an ad hoc committee to review and revise RCSC bylaws.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Second by Secretary Lanevsky. Okay, it is moved and seconded for the third time to form an ad hoc committee to review and revise the RCSC bylaws. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of the members who signed up to speak on this motion only.
When I read your name, please come up and sit in the chairs reserved in the front row. When called to the podium, please state your name and member number, and most importantly, whether you are speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. Susan Bjork, Patrick Gannon, Joseph Bakari, Lori Ellingson, and Jean Totten. I think that's it. First person to speak would be Susan Bjork.
Okay, Susan Bjork, 112650. I'm in favor of this motion, but the reason I'm standing up here is because I just wanted to give an example of if you remove the comments at the end, I could have done all three of mine at the end and saved us time, but I'm up here because I don't know how to ask to get on this committee because I'd like to be on the committee. So if somebody could reach out or I need to reach out to somebody, that's why I'm here. So I'm for it, but again, during the agenda, I'm going to be signing up so I can get my piece in because I still work. So I'm losing money now. So thank you for that.
Patrick Gannon.
Madam President, Board of Directors, fellow members, staff, my comment is in support of the board voting yes on the motion to form.
Your name and member number, Patrick?
Oh, I'm sorry. 1550056. 150056. My comment is in support of the board voting yes on the motion to form an ad hoc bylaws committee. It's my experience that each motion that the membership has brought forward to make changes or clarifications that would empower us as members has been defeated. First by the 2021 board at the December 13th annual member meeting, and also at the January 27th, 22 board meeting by this current board. Those decisions, those votes, they're now history. It's time to move to the next step. I support voting yes on the motion for the Ad hoc Bylaws Committee because that appears to be the next place to make member voices heard. My goal, as I have stated before, is to clarify what are reasonable process steps that members can do to bring about a particular action by the board. And here's the core of my comments today. I believe it is the responsibility of both the board and the general membership to think together and to work together to craft bylaws that achieve three things. First, they align with the Articles of Incorporation, which are the legal body of this body. Second, provide enough specifics to provide members with a clear path to make reasonable requests to this board that contribute to healthy self-governance. And third, at the same time, support the fiduciary responsibility of the board to the ongoing health of the corporation. We need to work together to achieve these goals by articulating new or revised bylaws that adequately address the needs of both of these constituencies. In the board candidate forums and in recent board meetings, I've heard a sense of urgency expressed by a few of the board members, an urgency to form this ad hoc committee, to charge the committee with moving swiftly to review and revise the bylaws. I support efforts to accelerate the ad hoc bylaws committee meeting schedule in order to demonstrate to the general members that the board hears our concerns and will act in a timely fashion to address the concerns of both board members and general members regarding various bylaws that currently exist. Let's have spirited discussions. Let's be respectful as we're participating, have discussions that are necessary to hammer out good bylaws. Vote yes to get this moving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Bakari.
First of all, I want to thank you, Madam President of the Board, for this opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Joseph Bakari, and I don't have my number memorized.
I hate the
149848. But thank you for this opportunity to speak to you about the formation of this bylaw committee. It's a great example of how shared responsibility between the board and the membership of Sun City Recreation Centers can work, especially concerning bylaws, which affect us all. I stand in support of the proposed bylaw committee, which I which is why I suggested it at the annual meeting, and I would like to be able to use my expertise in my retirement for the benefit of all fine citizens of Sun City and the smooth operation of this board. There are a lot of members who are retired with lots of expertise in nonprofit organizations, boards of directors, administration, and in bylaws. It would do the board well to tap into that experience for the use of the benefits of the members. By way of example, a brief background. I was originally from Philadelphia area, and I eventually moved to Tucson and earned a doctorate in the University of Arizona in 1976. I do hope that that will not hold anything against me, considering the rivalry between universities. I have worked for nonprofit organizations in leadership as a CEO, worked on many boards, served on boards, and for over 35 years surveyed such organizations in all 50 states in Canada, applying for standards for accreditation. The significant component of the administrative part of the survey included reviewing general operations, documentation, human resources, corporate policies, standard operations, and bylaws. I have personally consulted with organizations in administration, have drafted bylaws, have advised many organizations on their bylaws and their standard operating procedures. So with that background, again, I stand in support of this bylaw committee. Well-written and clearly stated bylaws and SOPs will only serve to strengthen any board in its effectiveness, which in turn will only serve its members and constituents in the most effective manner. To review bylaws does not imply there's anything wrong. In fact, good practice dictates that every organization conduct a review of its bylaws annually, because language changes, conditions change, and facts change. If everything looks okay, then it's documented in minutes. Whether there are changes proposed or not, results of an annual review and board review are presented to the memberships for approval. The work of this committee should be thorough and completed in sufficient time for the board to review and give feedback, and in time to present to the membership at the next annual membership meeting. Having owners with expertise serving on the committee will provide an objective perspective to the bylaws, and in that line, I volunteer to serve on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Ellingson.
Lori Ellingson, 133335. I am in favor of this. My, again, concern is when will it be formed? How will you decide who is on the committee? What specific timeline will you have as far as getting suggestions made? And when will it be presented to the board? And when will a change occur? Right now, it's, again, very, very vague. We formed an ad hoc planning committee for the remodel of Mountain View. That was before coronavirus. I asked to be on that committee, but was told it was full. I was not allowed to be on the committee. The committee went ahead and continued to meet even after the shutdown of all the facilities. They then presented their results at the very last board meeting, which was approved, and it went through. A year later, everything that the ad hoc planning committee for the remodel of Mountain View that was approved, none of it was done. It was totally different. So my question is, are we going to spend 6 to 9 months with an ad hoc planning committee to revise the bylaws, only to have those approved, and then have the board vote them down again? It just seems that we are spinning our wheel. We are doing everything possible to kick the can down the road and pretend like we are addressing issues, but nothing gets accomplished. So my biggest thing is, do not let the ad hoc planning committee for revising the bylaws, if it is voted and approved, do not let the changes that they approve get voted down like everything that the ad hoc planning committee for Mountain View got voted down. If you go back and you look at the meeting from 3 years ago, and you look at the plans that the ad hoc Mountain View submitted, compare them to what was voted yes, you'll be extremely disappointed. Thank you.
President Lair.
Secretary Wilson.
I'm just a director.
Secretary on the mind today. I'm so sorry.
I would like to comment on this because, first off, the ad hoc committee that was formed for Mountain View, we had an interview process, and we went through and interviewed all of those applicants that had turned their applications in. Sorry that you did not turn yours in. Second of all, as we met before the COVID shutdown, and then we met via email, because that was the only way we could do it at the time, and we conversed by email with the committee. And third, we knew that any of the recommendations that we put on that ad hoc form were prioritized. And the committee knew that not everything was going to happen. The committee did decide that they wanted a performing arts center, that they wanted a gym, they wanted a fitness center, and they wanted 2 pools. So when you say that nothing is on there, you're wrong. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Jean Totten.
Oh, Jean, I almost forgot about you, Jean. Sorry. We're getting...
Jean Totten, 148753, and I just want to say that I'm not going to speak long because the people before me have mentioned in much more elegant tones than I could all the reasons why I do support it. However, I feel the way it's written is too vague. I'd also like to point out I find it ironic that it follows the fact that Director McAdam just said, let's not be in such a hurry to make changes to the bylaws. She proposed a suggestion of doing an experiment of having 3 meetings of a board exchange, rather than doing the bylaws one more time before an ad hoc committee that we have no idea how many members are going to be on it. It sounds to me like you have quite a few members out here that are very interested in being on it. We have no idea how long it's going to take. You've set no time limit. Is it going to be a year or 2 years? How long did it take for the ad hoc committee for Mountain View to come to their resolutions? These are just some of my comments. Like I said, I am definitely in favor of looking at the bylaws, definitely. But I feel, again, that you're too vague in the way that you make these motions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who has signed up has spoken.
Okay. The motion before you is the approval of an ad hoc committee to review and revise the RCSC bylaws. Director Collins is maker of the motion. Do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
Yes. Yes, Madam President, thank you. Here in Sun City, we have quite a luxury of having probably the most knowledgeable people in this country. And they have worked in businesses and own businesses across this great nation. And I have had many, many people, Lynette Bauer, Janet Curry, Joe Sakari, Susan Bjork, they have all served on boards, and I just want it to be known that they would probably do very well on this, and I'm encouraging this board to put them on the committee. We also have other members, Ben Roloff, Tom Marone, and Patrick Gannon, that express interest in being on this committee, and I would encourage that. I would like to see monthly updates on this progress of this committee as they finish the first article. We bring it forward and we vote on it, not wait until every single one is done, and which could take time. We can gradually go through and we can pass as they go. And I think that would be a lot more credible and better for the community and the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All right. Director or Secretary Lanevsky.
You're just messing with
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Fimmel.
Yes.
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Treasurer Akins.
Yes.
Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
I vote yes. President Blair.
8-4, 0 against. The motion passes. It's third and final reading. Yay. New business. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of the card holders. I'm going to cross that off. Members who signed up to speak to the new business items only.
When I read your name, please come up and sit in the chairs reserved in the front row. When called to the podium, please state your name and member number, and most importantly, whether you are speaking for or against the motion. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. I have 2 people signed up, Susan Bjork and Lori Ellingson.
Hello again. Susan Bjork, 112-650. I am against this item, and here is why. I've been paddleboarding for years, and this would put me in the line of path of motorized boaters, albeit not huge horsepower, but it still would put me in the line of those boaters. And I have never been on a public lake where I have had to have the restriction of 25 feet. And if they have a dock or a boat, it's 25 feet beyond that. Again, that lake is pretty small, so it's going to put you out in the center. And I'm just wondering if this would be exempt paddleboarders and kayakers, things of that nature, because you have all the paddle boats, and I can understand the concern. You know, you don't want people to hit the people's boats and all of that, but to give them the right, you're basically giving them more real estate. Because let's just say the average shoreline is 200 feet. 25 feet, just using them 25 feet, that's an extra 5,000 square foot of real estate that homeowner is going to have the rights to, because you're saying that we have to get their permission. So does Maricopa County have to be informed of that? You know, it just doesn't seem like this. I'd just like to know where this ruling came from, you know, or where this item of business came from and why it's being put forth. And then the other thing I'd like to know is, of the board members up here, if any of you have homes on the lake or friends and family with homes on the lake, then I would suggest that you recuse yourself, because there is a conflict. But mainly, my concern is paddleboarding. That's one of my favorite pastimes. It's one of the reasons I finally found the lake about a year ago, and it's one of the reasons I decided to move. down here. I've been paddleboarding for years, and golf, right now I don't golf because the fairways and the greens are like cement to me, so I need something else to do, and this 25-foot rule. Dawn Lake, if they wanted a private lake, Dawn Lake's private, they can go live over there. So that's just my concern. I still want a paddleboard, and I'm going to be concerned about it if you institute this rule. Maybe a 5 or 10-foot shoreline rule, I don't know. But I hope that you reject this. Thank you.
Lori Ellingson.
Lori Ellingson, 133335. It says here, all boats, including RCSC paddle and rowboats, may not be closer than 25 feet from the shoreline, the RCSC fishing pier, the screen outlet near Cameo Bridge, or any dock or docked boat, unless permission is received from prospective property owner. First of all, my question is, why is this even a motion? Why isn't this something that could be addressed by the facility monitor at Lakeview? Why do we have to have such minute, specific readings? Our 2-hour time limit would be much, much less if we didn't have motions like this to begin with. This is something that really shouldn't even be addressed. Last year, June
Lori?
23rd.
Lori, are you in favor of the motion or against the motion?
I'm against the motion.
Against, okay.
I'm against the motion. I don't think, I live on a golf course. Would any of you be willing to put through a motion that says no one is allowed to come closer to 25 feet from my property line if they shank a ball? I'm not going to, I don't think that's a problem if somebody needs to come over into my yard to look for a lost ball. I don't think people that live on the lake should be concerned. If I'm out paddle boating, if I'm on a stand-up paddle board and the wind comes up and the wind pushes me over onto the shoreline, am I going to get a fine because of that? That's ridiculous. I sent 6 emails, one on June 23rd and 5 more on June 24th last year, addressing a lot of issues. The reason why I sent those was because I was not going to be here for the next board meeting, and I wanted these issues addressed. I only got a reply from one of the emails. The other emails I didn't get replies from. So my question is, why are we wasting time on trivial issues and not spending more time on what's really important?
Okay.
Madam President.
I'm sorry.
Everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. The first item of new business is a motion to amend Board Policy 10, Vice President Egge.
Madam President, I move to amend Board Policy 10 under boating paragraph to reflect the following change, to add the paragraph, all passenger boats, including RCSC paddle and rowboats, and other vessels, such as kayaks and paddleboards, may not be closer than 25 feet from the shoreline, the RCSC fishing pier, the screened outlet near Cameo Bridge, fountains, or any dock or docked boat, unless permission is received from respective property owner.
Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Treasurer Akins. Okay, Vice President Egge, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak first in favor of its adoption?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Madam President. I would like to say that having lived on the largest man-made lake in North Carolina for 20 years, this 25-foot rule is very common. Well, I understand, but it's very common.
Please, decorum, please.
What is?
Go ahead, speak.
Okay, so it's kind of like don't park too close to a fire hydrant. I mean, it's a respect thing. You've got personal property, your boat dock. I mean, to me, this is, it's not something that's super easy to enforce. You're not out there with a radar gun trying to determine speed or distance. But, I mean, just from a standpoint of somebody coming, especially with a powered boat, even if it's a pontoon boat, even with an electric motor, I mean, you're just respecting people's space and personal property, that's all.
Okay, discussion. Director Wilson.
I'd just like to know, thank you, Madam President, I'd just like to know where this originated from. If someone could answer that.
Well, you can, I can. What do you want to do?
Answer it.
I can tell you that we had a meeting with the lake property owners, and it was just mentioned that there were some issues with people coming too close to the docks, sometimes tying up to the docks. So, we got with...
Madam President.
Just somebody speaking. Director Collins, just a minute.
So we spoke to Mr. Herring and with the property owners and arrived at this language to add to BP 10.
Director Collins.
Thank you, Madam President. I grew up on a lake my entire life until I moved here. And there was a court case brought up in New York State where a state senator purchased property and the Salmon River flowed through his property. And he said no one could boat, walk, fish, or anything in the river. It went to court, and the court found that you could not walk up the river, you could not fish in the river, but you were always able to drive your boat up the river, as long as you did not touch the bottom. And that was upheld in a court case against the senator. So people had the right, it didn't matter how close to the shore they were, as long as they didn't drop anchor or walk in that water. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Secretary Lanevsky.
I have a question for General Manager Cook. How many complaints, if you know, how many complaints have been made by the property owners who own the properties on the lake?
Madam President, Director Lanevsky, so just to add to Director Agee's explanation, we were at the Viewpoint Lake annual HOA meeting, and this came up by, I don't remember, 4 or 5 homeowners that came up and spoke to this issue. And so as management, as staff, we try and accommodate our membership to the extent that we can, and then we put it into the board's hands to make a decision on this. So I can't answer the specific amount, but roughly 4 or 5 that came up in that meeting.
Just a couple follow-up questions. The RCSC owns the lake. It's not the people who own the homes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And assuming, although you can't know for sure, I'm assuming that most of the people or all the people who bought property on there knew they were buying on the lake in advance, correct? That's a safe assumption. Yeah, if you don't know, I'll withdraw it.
I can't answer that.
I'll withdraw it. No. General Manager.
Thank you.
That's it.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sure that this is on a complaint basis. My difficulty with this is who does the enforcement? I would hate to see our employees become the water patrol to do the enforcement of this with nothing to back them up. So Conceptually, I think it's a great idea. I think it's some common courtesy that people do, but having a non-enforceable complaint basis rule that our employees are going to have to do, I can't understand it, but that's okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
General Manager.
General Manager Bill Cook.
Madam President, Director Nowakowski, so our staff manages rules all the time. We have lots of rules that they have to manage. So the way this would work is if a homeowner has an issue, they would call the FA station, and then the FA station, whoever's manning that station, would have to address it with that person, especially if they're utilizing one of our watercraft. So that's how that would work. And actually, the wording helps in the management of that for our staff, because when somebody complains that somebody's too close to their wall and the FA addresses that, the question always is, well, where is that written, right? So this does help us if we want to go ahead and enact this. It helps us actually manage that, so thank you.
Okay. Director Collins.
My issue here is you're on the water, and to say 25 feet, my 25 feet is different than what your 25 feet looks like. And then we're going to be calling and we're going to be sending our personnel over there. And to me, it's just something that we do not need to do and put our people in these places. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Okay. Director McAdam.
Thank you, Madam President. So I guess one of my questions would be, what damage is actually inflicted on homeowners on the lake if a paddleboarder or a kayaker comes within 15 feet of their property?
Depends if they're fishing. I mean, I don't know. They could have a pontoon boat that a hook could get caught in the, bimini top. I don't know.
A kayaker or a paddle boater is not generally fishing.
It doesn't limit it just to that, though. People do fish on that lake.
I understand, but we've heard from a member who has, I think, a very legitimate concern about not only the rights of the homeowners being infringed of, or the preferences, but also her own preferences. And I guess I'm just, if we're concerned about people tying up to docks that don't belong to them, let's make that the rule. You can't do that, but I don't understand why putting a 25-foot limit in there, how that balances the competing interests of the water sport people and homeowners. I'm sorry, it doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you. Hey, ma'am, you're out of order. Please refrain. This is a formal, just decorum. We're trying to keep things, it's a formal business meeting. You got to come up and give your say on the motion, please.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
I just want to go back to what we use all the time. We say, we have 32,000 members. Let's not let the voice of a few impact the many. So we're talking 5 out of 32,000.
Discussion? Okay, now I got to find my place here. Okay, the motion before you is to amend Board Policy 10, boating, inserting the paragraph, all boats, including RCSC paddle and rowboats, may not be closer than 25 feet from the shoreline.
Point of order, Madam President. I believe the motion was read differently than what you have here. Mr. Agee, when he read the motion, had a different wording than what you're reading.
I'm reading it right off the paper.
Yeah, but that's not what he read.
Okay.
This is the revised.
Thank you, Director McAdam. Okay, inserting the paragraph, all passenger boats, including RCSC paddle and rowboats and other vessels such as kayaks and paddleboards, may not be closer than 25 feet from the shoreline. The RCSC fishing pier, the screened outlet near Cameo Bridge, fountains, or any dock or docked boats, unless permission is received from respective property owner. Secretary Lanevsky, will you please take the roll call vote?
Director Collins.
No.
Director Fimmel.
No.
Director McAdam.
No.
Treasurer Akins.
No.
Vice President Agi.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
No.
Director Wilson.
No.
I vote no. President Lair.
No, I'm not voting. Okay. So we have, did we just have one person say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So with 7 opposed and 1 in favor, the motion passes, or motion fails. It's first reading, sorry. Okay. Mrs. Johnson, or Ms. Johnson, could you please read the names of the members that signed up to speak?
When I read your name, please come up and sit in the chairs reserved in the front row. When called to the podium, please state your name and member number, and each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. Okay, Charlie Peterson, Suzanne Tredup, I don't know how to say that. Okay. Christy Svedson, Cy Zuckerman, Gal Fillick, Judy Neal, Lois Yost, Lori Ellingson, Jean Totten, Carol Arend, Jim McGradam, I can't read your writing, and then Tybor Berner. The first person would be Charlie Peterson.
Charlie Peterson, 130438. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I was disappointed in the board enacting a 90-day moratorium on the Mountain View project. I'm a member of the basketball and volleyball club, and our group, along with several others, including theater arts and so forth and so on, worked over the last 4 or 5 years with town hall meetings, long-range planning, ad hoc committees, and the board, and to be able to work through and get this project approved. So I guess I'm curious what's happening during the 90-day moratorium.
Sir, I made that motion because I wanted to become familiar with the issues. I had heard a number of people who had problems, some contradicting each other on the motion, and I wanted time to take a look at it. What I can speak only for myself. I've had a number of people bring issues to me that I have asked questions on and received answers for. So I understand that project much better than I did, we'll say, on January 10th. But I needed time to have everybody have an opportunity to express their views to the new board, or at least to me. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I think last May and June, I think this is a little different subject about Mountain View, but I think at that time, you know, in regards to pickleball, there was talk about changing the tennis courts over to pickleball. But then in September, somehow the board succumbed to a fair amount of pressure from the pickleball club and approved, it sounds like at least, some kind of a $9 million facility to go along with that Mountain View remodel. Maybe I might be misunderstanding that, but it doesn't seem fair that at the last minute something like that would be approved by the board and the other groups that worked 4 or 5 years to be able to get through the theater arts, the gym, and so forth. So there seems to be some kind of a disconnect there. So I just think that, you know, pickleball should go through the same kind of a process that the other groups did to get that phase 1 approved at Mountain View. And I would urge the board to waive the 90-day moratorium and move ahead. The theater arts group has waited for years for a facility, and I think one more delay isn't going to do any good. Thank you.
Suzanne Tredup.
Down. I'm Suzanne Tredup. My thing is 32197. My issue is that January 26th of 2022, there was an article in the Independent paper about the golf courses and what they want to do. Now, the one where I live is on Quail Run, and I live on the golf course on the 6th hole. The gentleman that brought it up at one of your meetings wanted to get rid of Quail Run. It was just a request. They want to get rid of Quail Run and put a doggy park in and a walking park. Now, I have a lot of people that backing me up on this issue. And then I have heard from other people that it was just a rumor, you know. Well, what I'm asking of you is that I want to verify that it is a rumor and that there's not going to be any motion to, you know, take the golf course away from us. That's why we moved here, because we do want to play golf. And I'm looking out for all the golf courses in Sun City. Now, in 2011, my husband, Jim Tredup, and Steve Sodowski, if I pronounced it right, they were in charge of getting petitions and come to the board meeting, and they were fighting for the same thing that I'm asking of you. They won, and they wanted to put, whoever was in charge of it, they wanted to put condos on the golf course, or they wanted to put doggy park and, again, a walking park. My husband won this decision, and it went forward, and so it was all, we were just wondering, at one time, they said that it was grandfathered in. Well, I found out that it's not grandfathered in to keep the golf course going, and it was chartered in. Now, so I don't know, in the future, I would just like to have people, you know, be aware that this is not going to happen in our case. So, but I want an honest answer from you to clear these rumors. If it's a rumor, then fine, I'll go with it. But I just want to know from you guys how you feel on that.
Can I ask you, who did you hear this from? Your microphone. Your microphone's not working.
Who did you hear this from?
Well, I read the Independent. It had an article in it on January 26th, and it said something about that they were discussing or thinking about shutting it down. Yeah.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
She is totally correct in a lot of what you're saying back in the around 2010 period. That is totally correct. It did happen. It was abolished. But the current is no more than a rumor about it.
That's what I wanted to know, you know, because it just isn't right for the people that live in the Quail Run or any other golf course area, you know, to have this on their shoulders. So that's why I'm asking.
Thank you very much.
Christy Svedson.
Christy Svedson, number 137489, and I have a question about Mountain View, actually. When were the feasibility studies completed for Mountain View?
What?
Feasibility, parking and traffic both for Mountain View. When were they completed? Or were they?
Feasibility. She wants to know about feasibility of parking and traffic.
Madam President, Board of Directors, Ms. Svensson. So we've had our architect, CCBG, has done a preliminary study, and it was done in 2021, and we presented that to the board in May and June of last year, the results of that. So it was done in 2021. So we've looked at parking, we looked at a lot of things to make sure that it would fit on that property.
So what was the outcome of that then? I am looking at Mountain View, and I'm thinking there's no way there's room there for everything everybody wants because of traffic, because of parking. So what was the outcome of that study?
Madam President, Board of Directors, Ms. Svensson, the outcome is that as designed, it will fit on that property and it will comply with all of the Maricopa County standards with respect to parking.
Really? Okay. Well, I think that we're going to end up in a problem there, but that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Cy Zuckerman.
Cy Zuckerman, 152969. I was going to come up and say something about all the bickering that seems to go on between you guys, but today all your votes were pretty well decided. They were all 7-1, 8-0. You're doing better. You're getting there. But at an earlier meeting, I'd asked about the matching fees that the clubs have to make to RCSC when they made a charitable contribution. It's now being, I've heard people call it a charity tax at this point. I recently tried to get a motion before the board to stop this tax, to make it so that the clubs didn't have to match. Bill Cook had told me he looked for the money and couldn't find it, where that matching money was going. And that it was a minuscule amount anyway. Taking it away wouldn't have anything to do with your bottom line. So what I'm wondering is, how do I get this on the board menu now to take this tax away, to make it so that the club that gives $500 to charity doesn't have to give $500 to RCSC also? Okay,
I think we need to get to the why we're even doing this. And I believe that we had discussed that. It has to do, and Chris, would you mind just speaking again to the question? Because it has to do with our legal definition of our 501c4.
Good morning, Board of Directors, President Lair. I'm going to try to paraphrase what I had discussed or presented a meeting or so ago. When I researched this, I found that there were some IRS publications with respect to our 501c4 social status, with the clubs falling underneath that designation as a group exemption. I believe that was set up with respect to complying and ensuring that the clubs were to the benefit of its members, and that by ensuring that half of those donations stayed within RCSC, it allowed us to stay within the IRS guidelines for that. Again, I'm paraphrasing that. And that rule dates back to 1993, and the research went back through all of the documents, so it is not something new. It has been there for a very significant amount of time. I think also the concern was to keep those funds within the community and not to have the facilities that help generate that revenue then leave the community and go someplace else. So again, paraphrasing what I had presented before, I believe.
Thank you. General Manager Cook.
Madam President, Mr. Zuckerman, I'd also like to clarify that I didn't state that I didn't know where the money was. I just didn't know where it was on the financial statements, and I believe that our Director of Finance had addressed that at a prior board meeting as well.
Okay. Thank you.
So I have never heard where it went.
Well, I'm going to tell you now, I'm just speaking out of turn here a little bit, but I believe that that money goes back to communications. It's to promote clubs, marketing, and when you have an event coming up, a tournament for lawn bowling or pickleball, they put stuff in the paper. It's really to do event planning and that sort of thing. It's to promote the clubs that donated the money.
Okay.
Okay.
One more. Can I go one more quick thing? I know my time's up.
Maybe at the end. Thank you. Sorry. Okay.
Gail Fillick? Okay. Judy Neal?
My name is Judy Neal. My number is 44682. I am the original owner of our home on Quail Run. And I would like to know, there's a lot of rumors that are floating around about Quail Run being turned into a dog park or, God forbid, apartments. And I'm wondering if that's possible, let alone feasible. Could you just assure me that this would never, ever, according to law, ever happen?
Well, ma'am, first of all, it's a rumor. Whatever you're hearing, because I got about 20 emails about putting a dog park at Quail Run. That's a rumor. So, but, to say that it never, ever in the future something isn't going to change, I don't believe it would ever be changed to putting something like apartment buildings or something like that in. It would be something outdoor, I don't know. But, I mean, is it feasible sometime in the future? Possibly.
Is it lawful?
Huh?
Is it lawful?
Yes. But I would not, there is no plans for this, okay?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Lois Yost?
I'm Lois Yost. My number is 122743. I'm a member of the Mountain View Lawn Bowling Club, and I live adjacent to Mountain View. And the reason I purchased my property there was the amenities that were there. One of the things when Del Webb developed Sun City was that he put amenities there and then people came to buy. So if any amenity is taken away from Mountain View, that takes away the value of my property, and I'm not for that. We have a perfect place there at Mountain View with what we have, and I don't believe that you should take anything away from ours or any other club. If you need to remodel some things or make them up to date, pickleball has been added, which is a good thing, but pickleball might diminish in the future, just like tennis has in the past, and adding a lot of pickleball might not be the best idea. Perhaps putting a walk-in area for our swimming pool might be good, but don't take away what we have. As I said, Del Webb said the amenities will be there and then people will come and buy. That's what we did. and our lawn bowling club is very happy with the remodeling of what they did there, and it's beautiful. So please leave us alone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Ellingson.
She decided to leave, but she relinquished her time.
Okay. Did you sign up, sir, or no?
No,
I did not, but...
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know.
My name's Milt Lebsack. My number is 130662.
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Milt Lebsack, 130662. I am a resident. My wife and I are residents in Phase 1 in Mountain View area for the last 6 years. I've submitted letters to the board and to the Sun City Independent regarding my thoughts about the Mountain View project, but I'm sorry Mr. Peterson has left here, but I feel a need to respond directly to him in relations to an indoor gym. I have had, in the 6 years that we've lived in Phase 1, my two primary activities are pickleball and indoor volleyball, which takes place in a senior center in Surprise. Several years ago, Mr. Peterson approached me as well as other members of the volleyball club to support an indoor gym in Sun City. At that time, I told him, and I still feel that way, that there is not sufficient demand for that, and that the volleyball club currently meets in a senior center in Surprise and consists of members from Sun City West, Sun City Grand, Peoria, and Surprise. And in that entire group, it's very difficult sometimes to get more than 15 or 20 people to play volleyball. I suspect that the same is true of basketball, and that I'm sorry to say that Mr. Peterson represents a very small number of people, and the demand for an indoor gym has been vastly exaggerated, as opposed to a pickleball club, which has 750 to 800 members and is actively used at Marinette and Mountain View for all the time that I've been here. So I feel that there's been insufficient support for the existing pickleball courts and a very overstated demand for an indoor gym, which I don't believe really exists. I am fine with playing in an indoor gym in an adjacent city with a group of people from surrounding areas that do not necessarily include strictly Sun City residents. I don't believe there's a demand for an indoor gym. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Totten.
Jean Totten, 148753. Madam President, I would like to thank you very much for calling us members before, because members are the ones who can speak here. Thank you. I wanted to ask, and it was brought up to Director Linevsky about the 90-day moratorium. I am confused because I thought when that went into effect, you were going to ask the members why we thought we needed to not build Mountain View. Instead, I think now President Lair said no, you're just asking the new board members to explain, because the other board members have been there. So I guess I just wanted to know what the progress is with it. You know, are you finding out if the parking spaces are correct? And was there a study done at all on building a standalone theater somewhere else that where it could be prominently displayed, proud of our theater? Because I'm all for the theater being in existence. And also the fact that Lakeview is going to be worked on in 2031, 2034, and 2035 to the tune of $22 million. You're going to, I believe, possibly raise the building. What about putting a beautiful standalone theater there that would be prominently displayed with Del Webb's statue in the front? Also eliminating a lot of that grass that's around there. So I guess I was confused over who was being asked to give input. And if it's I'm supposed to give input, please let me know, and I'll write a letter to all of you. Or if someone, but not on my 3 minutes, could explain, I would appreciate that. I also wanted to speak to Mr. Zuckerman said about the donations. I find it ironic that a club is willing to donate money to a charity when we have our own Sun City Prides who work on their own, have to raise their own money. Why aren't they being given the money? We are so proud of the way our community looks, but they have to ask for donations. If the pickleball club wanted to give $500, sorry, my time is up. I'll stay here.
Madam President?
Director Fimmel.
Can I just briefly say that the comments that Ms. Totten makes and some of the comments that other people have made here today, the members, are exactly the reason why new members like myself asked for the moratorium, was to get answers and to ask even more questions than the questions you've been asking, and to get answers to those questions. This is a very large project. It's a very big fiduciary responsibility. And I think all of us want to be sure that exactly what we're doing is exactly what we should be doing.
Yeah. Madam President. Ms. Totten, since I made the motion, I can tell you what I meant. Okay. What I meant is I had heard conflicting things where some people might have wanted a theater, some may not have. Some may have wanted a gym, some may not have. Some may have wanted to do it at Lakeview, some may want to do it at Bell. And my purpose in that was not only to be able to ask the board and the staff about those questions, but to give the people who are opposed to this project or for this project an opportunity to be heard. Okay? Anything that somebody wants to send me, I've looked at a lot of stuff. I've had a lot of questions answered, right, as I make my decision. But it was to give those who are opposed or for the project 90 days in which to convince the board of their views or to give them a chance to modify their views based on new information. That was my purpose.
Jim, is it McGrada? I don't know how to pronounce it. You're not here? Okay. Tybor Burner. No? Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Good. Now that we'll open the floor for anyone who did not sign up but would like to speak. When you approach the microphone, we ask that you state the name and your name and number, and you will have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My apologies. I wasn't aware I needed to sign up for this portion.
No problems.
My name is Dan Haberman, 135157. As I said, my name's Dan Haberman, and I am the current president of the Sun City Pickleball Club. And, you know, I would be lying if I didn't admit that I have not agreed with some of the decisions and direction that the past board has gone. But I would like to be an optimist, and I would like to look forward instead of looking backward. President Lear and myself had the pleasure of having a meeting here recently. I thought it was a very candid, positive meeting. We got a good line of open communication going. I think we will continue to have that line of communication. I would like to see that this communication now proceeds between just not her and I, but between our pickleball board and this board. I do really appreciate that you give people this opportunity to speak. And at times, there are people that approach this microphone that say they are members of the Sun City Pickleball Club. And I appreciate their passion, I appreciate what they're saying, and I like their opinions, and I'm glad they're voicing their opinions to you. But at times, that's what they are, is they are their opinions. And President Lear and I have decided that I guess moving forward, we would like a lot of the communication concerning pickleball be between this board and our board. Not to say that people still can't come up here and give you their opinions and and what they feel, but I'd like to see more interaction between the two boards. A lot has been spoken today about rumors, and I would like to squelch a rumor real quickly. And that is, there is a rumor that the Sun City Pickleball Club is unfriendly, we're uninviting, we're inclusive. I've even heard the words used that the Sun City Pickleball Club is a bunch of mean people. Mm-hmm. That is not the pickleball club I know. It's not the club that I'm a proud member of. Our club is growing daily. It has grown by over 100 members in the last year, and there's no way you can have a club growing that's unfriendly. I've invited President Lear. I am now inviting this whole board to come on this coming Friday, the 22nd, to the Marinette Rec Center and see our club in action in our annual tournament. There is also a pizza lunch I'm inviting you to, and how can you pass up a free piece of pizza? So please join us this Friday out from between 10 and noon. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need to reset the clock. Reset the clock.
Ben Roloff, 12663. I come wearing two hats today. One is a Sun City historian, self-appointed, but also a member of the museum board. I want to give you about a 2-minute quick history of this building. It's 49 years old. It's served us splendidly during that time. It was announced the building in 1973. It was built and dedicated all in 1 year at a cost of $1.8 million. Translated to today's money, that was between $11 and $12 million. It's one of 3 rec centers in Sun City of the 7 that has not been renamed. The other 2 are Bell and Lakeview. Different story. Once it was decided to build, they had to have a name. It's the only one of the 7 where the community was asked to submit names. And the name Sundial was chosen out of those submitted. Once it was chosen, it was decided it should be marked with a sundial. Not a sundial, but the sundial. At that time, there was a sundial in Carefree, Arizona, right in the city, which was announcing itself to be the largest in the West. The instructions for the employee of Sun City Webb was to go measure it, and we were going to build one at least a foot higher. The one in Carefree is 62 feet on the gnomon, which is the long vertical pointer. The instructions were we're going to have at least 1 foot taller. Ours is 64 feet, which is listed out on the plaque out there. What was not listed was the fact that we have a sundial which is unlike any others in that it has 15 hours on it. There's no recorded notation as to why. Don't know that. There are some other things that were really interesting about this center. Del Webb came and dedicated in '73. It was his last appearance in Sun City. He died shortly after in '74. When he dedicated it, what was noted was the 3 unusual things about this community. One, it had the largest indoor swimming pool anywhere in the state of Arizona at the time, 50 feet by 40 feet, with a big diving well on the end. Outside were the first artificial greens on the lawn bowling, where they are no longer there. And then across the street upstairs were 10 indoor shuffleboard courts, which disappeared in 2001 when they warped and were decided not to be needed. That's the site of the men's club up there. Today it was repurposed over to the men's club. There's some other history here, which was of interest. Since I've been here since '97, in 2005, when the roof fell in over the pool, 2 years it took to open it up again. And then in 2011, when the board up there decided to tear down the sundial. because its cost was going to be $48,000 to stabilize it or $17,000 to demolish it. That decision didn't last very long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of the history.
Hi again. Cy Zuckerman, 152969. I just have a favor to ask. When you guys have a motion or something that you bring forward, could you bring it forward with a plan on how you're going to execute it? It seems like most of the people that come up have been saying, what's your plan? How are you going to do this? The ad hoc meetings, how are you going to get up? Please come up with plans, and then we'll be happy. We'll know what's going to happen. Okay? Thank you.
Will they ever be happy? I don't know.
Hi, Tracy Bessebarger, 116319. I have three things to talk about. One is the member exchange. I was here when we had the member exchange, and I absolutely loved it because you're supposed to be, but you're very formal as a board. The member exchange is where we can get up and we can talk and talk and talk and tell you what we feel and do this, do that, and you take it and you figure out what we're going to do with it. Number two is donations. All clubs, if you give a money donation to something, you give the other to the RCSC. You can do it in material items like the dog park, because we can't give money out because we don't have a lot of money in our pockets. So we do material items like dog food and this and that, and that's how we donate. And then we don't, no offense to you guys, but then we don't have to donate to them. But we do donate every year $50 to $100 to the RCSC as a donation from the dog park, because we get free copies, we get free rooms, we get lots of stuff. But when it comes to big donations, we can't do that cash value, so we give other things. The other thing is Quail Run. That was years ago about another dog park. And yes, it never went through, but we were going to do that, or the board was going to do that, or however it was going to be. I can't remember exactly. But I've never heard of anything being built there. Okay, like condominiums and stuff. I didn't read the Independent, but I've never heard that, but I couldn't believe that they would want to do something like that. As for dog parks, our original dog park was to be at Sun Bowl, and it has never gone through because Bob Knight sold the property and we have Duffy Land. But it would be nice, again, to have a secondary dog park, because a lot of people with small dogs don't like the big dogs. I had a 3-pounder, she passed away. She played with all of the big dogs. Dogs don't know big and small, okay? It's the people that have the problem that need to be trained and need to go to training, which we do have Best Friends Dog Club for training for people and their dogs. And that's all I have to say, and thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you.
And you guys too.
Hello, Mike Kennedy, 32913. I'm interested in the lake where you want to tie your rented boat up on somebody's backyard. I live across the street from the other lake, where it is totally enclosed. Mm-hmm. And those people have the boats that are on the water. The same thing is, it's the same as what's happening. If you're going to go in to allow people to tie up to a house, if you look at what they're doing is they're going into the backyard of the people on the lake. Because if I'm going to have people coming over who can drive into my backyard and leave their cars or do whatever the heck they want, there's no way. So if you're on the lake and you put a 15 feet a thing for the people who are renting a boat for a day or a half hour, that would make a lot more sense. And if I lived on the lake and you brought a boat up to my line and I didn't want it there, it would go away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pam Spinella, 142721. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to the new folks. Thank you to the folks that have been here in 2020 and 2021. You guys put up with a lot. My concern is ADWR and the water situation. When are we drawing down the lake for repair? When will the turf reduction begin? Can we please get an update? I don't care how much of my time you use or who answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. General Manager Bill Cook.
Thank you, Madam President. So with respect to ADWR, we're right now in the process of gathering responses to our RFP to repair the lake. We do have one in-house, and so we are right now scrutinizing it and pushing back on pricing and such. So the plan would be to start in 2022 and probably finish, by 2023. With respect to the turf reduction, that has been put into the PIF plan. I don't have that with me, but the PIF dictates by course, and we are going to start with South, I believe. Is it 25? Yeah, 2025 is the start date according to our current PIF budget. So it'll be 2025 and then a 5-year plan to do the turf mitigation.
Is this what's being legally mandated for us to do?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill Pearson.
Bill Pearson, 133438. Thanks to Ben for his history reminder. I was the president of the Del Webb Sun City Museum when they decided they would take the sundial down, and I know some of us got less than pleased with it. And to the board, they listened to the membership because that actually is a very important piece of our history. That's a good thing. Alan, Director Lineski, you'll appreciate this. Every board change, every board policy used to go through the Legal Affairs Committee, which was retired lawyers and judges who literally reviewed every change that they were going to make. So they didn't screw up, so they didn't have to turn to the parliamentarian and say, is that a good thing? Or can we even legally do that? Unfortunately, that committee went away real quick when the new GM came in, and it was tragic because it was the foundation for our documents maintaining their credibility, which brings me the perfect segue into the bylaws rewrite committee. I'm delighted to see it. Let's not dawdle. As I've sat here since that general membership meeting, annual membership meeting last year, I've seen some spectacular people step up to the microphone and put their hand up and say, we'll help. Don't drag this out, please. Your credibility, if we're going into even the next annual membership meeting, November, December, whenever you have it, won't say much for people. I heard Steve recommend that, Director Collins, I love the formality, say that we should piecemeal it. I suspect some of you will go. We shouldn't piecemeal it. No, you're shaking your head, Dale.
I don't think we should piecemeal it.
Well, what's interesting is since, in fact, in the first several meetings, I've heard piecemeals of bylaws every meeting. So I agree, piecemealing may not make sense, but you guys piecemeal every month. And you have been. Let me make it worse. You used to piecemeal it when the GM would go in, rewrite the bylaws, bring them forward, and you'd have drive-by passings. When the members' rights, and you've heard me say this before, were stripped from them with nary a whimper from a board member. We had no sense of loss that for 40 years those documents gave us our rights, but when we took them away, it was check, boom, gone. That's troubling. So I'm all good with the move. You got some great people here that have said, I'll be on it, put them on it, get to it, get her done. It's pretty simple. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, Mike Wendell, 145206. What seems to come up at a lot of meetings is questions about big projects. And what's hard to find is information on that, and so people end up coming here and start asking questions. So you got the golf shed that's being built, you've got the lake project, you've got the Mountain View plan. There ought to be something on the website where you can publish and keep up to date status. Where are we at? What's been approved? What's next? Things of that nature. And that'll go a long ways towards people knowing what's going on and not just coming here and saying, oh, by the way, what's happening with the water project? What's happening with the golf course? It's a matter of just putting it out there and updating it, keeping a status. Then people can ask more intelligent questions of, well, when is this? Is there a point I get a chance to maybe questions, who do I contact if I have suggestions or I want more information on a specific project? It's a simple thing. You did away with the Communications Committee. You made it the In Focus Committee. I think you ought to bring a standing Communications Committee back. And they ought to look at things like that. How do you provide better feedback and let people know what the feedback loop is? Who do I contact regarding a project if I have a question or a suggestion, rather than leaving it to member comments or to member exchanges as it comes along later? So that's kind of my suggestion. One other thing is, I think that the Bylaws Committee is a good thing, but I don't think it should be ad hoc. I think it should be a standing committee. It should be something that as they come up with bylaw suggestions and changes, they get presented. It's not a big bang. We wait till the end of the year. Somebody comes up and says, here's all the stuff we need to change. Again, status, what's going on, what's happening. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other? Oh.
I just wanted to finish what I started. Jean Totten, 148753. I'd like to thank Director Lineski for his explanation. That was totally different than what I understood from President Lair. So you will hear from me. And I hope many others out there in wherever will also take the time to now send emails, call, or whatever, so that you'll understand why we are concerned about the Mountain View project. I also echo others who have spoke about having members that have expertise. You've got them here. Please use them. I have very much appreciated the town hall meeting on Oakmont that was held with Chris Herring in attendance, giving a beautiful presentation. But I am not sure that I am in favor of something called a preferred vendor list instead of request for proposals. That's something I think should be investigated. I think the board might do itself well besides having, as Mr. Wendell just said, an item on the website that keeps us informed about the motions. You should have one for rumors, because a lot of what we come up here and talk about are rumors, and we would be saving ourselves a lot of time because you hear the rumors too. I heard a rumor that Viewpoint Lake didn't need to be fixed any longer, so I'm glad that was brought up. The dog lady, and I'm sorry I don't know her name, mentioned something. And again, this triggered me. I didn't even have this on my long list. she talked about the fact that because they make donations, they get free rooms and free coffee. I am not sure that that is quite fair to all the other clubs in existence who don't make donations to RCSC. So if I have that incorrect, it would be something that I think you might want to talk about. And the last thing is, I would appreciate it if the board would not bury controversial issues regarding such as a gun that showed up on a golf course, a gentleman on a bicycle who accosted an employee, catalytic converters being stolen. Please don't bury these issues. We need to know about them. Thank you very much.
Tracy Besselbarger, 116319. I'd like to say I never, ever said anything about coffee. All clubs get, I said coffee?
I believe she said copies.
Copies. I never said coffee. I know that. Okay, so you get, I think it's 50 free copies per club. You get free room per club. Everyone gets it. The dog park doesn't get it. We don't have dedicated space. So we do get things, but we only get the things that all the clubs do. So I want to make sure you understand that. We do pay for our coffee.
Okay, very good. Is there any other comments?
Ed Van Ness, 116313. I would, somewhat odd that Mr. Cook said that he had $500,000 to give Kat Mill for her technology commission, which is a great thing. But I also heard they had an excess of $11 million. That's a lot of money, and where is that accountable? I know it's on a line item, but where does that money get spent? Do you have an input on that? I mean, that's a lot of money, $11 million. What could we all do with $11 million that might not be accounted for? Is there an accounting for that?
There is. Management can't spend anything that isn't budgeted. It has to be approved by the board.
Yes.
Kat asked for a budget approval. Was that budgeted? Was that in the PIF fund?
No.
So how was that approved?
That's why it came to the floor. That's why we had to have a request from the board to spend the money, because it was a non-budgeted item.
But I just think that's a lot of money to be in a carry. I mean, that's showing they're doing a great job with their money, and I appreciate that. But I also think it's a lot of money. Where did that all come from? Where's the accountability of where that money come from?
And it's accounted. Go ahead.
Madam President, Board of Directors, Mr. Van Ness. So just to clarify, we get audited every year. I don't have a slush fund where I spend money as I see fit. We have a budget, a Finance and Budget Committee that approves our operational budget every year. And if we have excess, it gets carried into our carry forward. And to your point, it's as a result of fiscal responsibility and ensuring that, we fall within our budget. And when things come up that are out of budget, we go to the board and make sure that it gets approved at that level. And so we have this, and it is on our cash line item. It's one of our cash line items. It's not an exact amount because we do have operational funds that flow through there as well. So that is how it gets accounted.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
General Manager Cook, I believe it was in November, they said that we didn't have to raise members' annual fees because we had the carry forward money. So did we move money at that point into the budget to cover the increase for the memberships?
Yes. So I guess I'm not sure I understand your question.
Well, I keep hearing the carry forward money was used back in November so we would not have to increase the assessment fees, but I never heard of any money being moved over to cover any increase in assessment fees. And then I think in December we heard that carry forward money could be used for something else. It keeps coming up that it's being used for things, but we're not moving it. Today was the first time I heard the $11 million, and it's the first time I heard we were using that money, or not the first time I've heard we were using it, but an amount was getting moved to something.
Director Collins, so the money, we don't raise our assessments because we have the carry forward. So we have a cushion. So in good conscience, we don't, we have not raised the assessments. Now, as our operational budget goes up, who knows what the requirements are going to be as inflation continues, as supply chain continues to raise prices on operational items. We don't know, but at this point, up and through the last 5 years, we've had the carry forward, which has allowed us to keep our assessments steady and not raised.
But we never announced what we use from the carry forward to our assessments.
Director Collins, did you attend the Finance and Budget Committee meetings?
No, I wasn't here.
Oh, well, I would strongly suggest that is a good place to go, especially as being a board member, because I think you get a lot of these questions answered.
Mm-hmm. And we do actually present that every month as well with respect to where we are in terms of utilizing any of those funds. But we do budget that, and it gets budgeted and it gets approved through the budgeting process.
Thank you. Okay, because we have gone on longer than 2 hours, we're going to forego the board comments. Our next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on...
I don't think that's right. We don't have board comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next meeting of the Board of Directors will be on February 24th from 2022 in the Sundial Auditorium at 9 a.m. There being no further business and without objection, this meeting will be adjourned.
I object. I object.
Second.
Point of order.
There has to be a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Also move.
Seconded?
I'll second.
There's been a motion second. All in favor? All in favor? Raise your hand.
Raise it.
Raise it so I can count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is there 6? Am I counting correctly? 5. 6?
6.
Motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Please don't forget to turn your phones back on.
Oh, thank you.
I know, I always forget to.
This is a copywritten production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.